Hi, it's Christine. Welcome to my tutorial for the crisscross slider easel card. This is a card that I made, and it slides into this little envelope box, and I'll give you the directions and the dimensions to make this at the end of the tutorial. Now this card is made in 3 parts: the crisscross part, and then the slider part, which attaches to the back of the crisscross card, and then the easel that attaches to the back of the entire thing. I posted a link in the description of this video to the PDF file that includes all of the measurements and the tutorial. It's on my website, so you can just go ahead and download that. If you want, just print off the first page that includes all of the dimensions, or you can print off the whole document if you want. I did it similar to my mini album tutorials, where you get the instructions and photographs in the document, and you can follow along with this video if you want. So we're going to start by doing the crisscross card. I cut my 2 pieces of cardstock. I used this yellow for the base of the card, and that's cut to 5.5 inches by 11 long, and I scored on the 11-inch side. I scored at 5.5 so that it's folded exactly in 2. Now this will fit one inside the other like that. This piece will be folded down to form this crisscross, and then the other side here will be folded in like that to form the other side. On the back I put some trim, and that's sandwiched between the 2 pieces of cardstock that form the back of the card, so that's in here. So let's start by getting the front of the card done. I'm going to fold down from one end to the other. So I'm using my scoreboard, and on my piece I position my cardstock so that the center part of the card is right on one of the score marks, and I'm going to position the bottom so that it's lined up in the same score mark. And I score straight down, and then I can fold it in, and that's going to form the right side of my card. Now I don't need all of this extra cardstock, so I'm going to trim some of that off, but I like having a little edge that folds in. It just makes it that much sturdier instead of having just a straight edge. I'm going to put this through my trimmer and just cut off some of the excess. So maybe, say, about half an inch. Like that. Now if this part here interferes with the fold, I can trim off a little bit of the corner here, just to make it easier, like that. I'm going to put a piece of tape on there. Doesn't have to be all the way, just to hold it in place. There we go. So there's the right section of the card. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the left section. I want to fold from the left to the bottom right. So I'm going to position this here. Oops, I didn't do that very well. And I fold in. excess. Get rid of some of the corner. Like that. And tape it down. So there's my left piece and my right piece, and the back of the right goes on the back of the left section like that. This is going to fold down and this is going to fold over like that. Now I'm going to put some tape along the back here and along the bottom, and before I tape across the top, I want to put a little border. You don't have to do that, but I want to put a little border along the inside of the top here. So I've already got my border cut. I just measured it to make sure that it would fit inside without interfering with where the page folds, like that. And I just center it across. Now if you wanted to, you could always, instead of putting a border, or you could still put a border, but instead of taping down, you could leave it open and put another tag in there if you wanted to. For example, on this one here, I attached both sides of the card closed, and I could have left it open and just put tape on this side and slid another tag in there, but I didn't want to do that. Now, this is going to attach over like that. So I'm going to put some tape on the back of this piece and along the right edge and the left edge and the bottom. So basically I tape all around the square part on my left piece. And I think for good measure, I'll put a piece across the center. Like that. Now, I'm going to put this over top. I can close it like that. And once it's straight, remove one piece of tape. And I can open it up and take away the rest of the tape back in. Now I want to mat the back section here of my card. So that would be this part here. I'm going to use this paper. I'm leaving about 1/8 of an inch all around. Now this paper goes all the way to the bottom of my card, but it doesn't really need to, because as long as it's covered from there down. So I'm going to attach this. Using a combination of tape and my glue stick. There we go. Next, I can start taping my card closed. For this piece, because I'm going to be sliding a tag in, I don't put any tape around there. I just put tape along the bottom part, and that way my tag can slide in. So I'm going to put a piece of tape along here. Maybe I'll put a double piece to make it stronger. Okay. Now before I fold this piece over, I want to mat my two panels in here. And I also want to put a little bit of trim here that I'm going to slide underneath this piece here. So I'm going to grab maybe a piece of scrap paper. I really like this blue paper, and I'm running out, so I'm just working with a lot of scraps right now. I'm going to punch some of this edge. This is the doily punch, I think, and it's by Martha Stewart. You can use whatever punch you want, if you even want to punch it at all. I'm going to trim approximately like that. Now, this will attach just like that. And then I'm going to trim this edge off after. Now, if you prefer, you can also attach it on the inside like that. You just trim your corners here and attach it, but I like attaching it on the outside. Oh, actually, before I do that, sorry, I'm going to mat my cardstock before I attach this. Now, to mat, I know that this piece measures 5.5 by 5.5, the square part. So I want to leave about 1/8 of an inch on each side. So I'm going to cut this 1/8 of an inch smaller, which would be 5.25 by 5.25. So I've got my square that fits here. Now I'm going to cut from to make this triangle, I'm going to cut from the top left to the bottom right. And that's going to give me a perfectly shaped triangle. And it's going to be about 1/8 of an inch smaller than the card stock. So you'll see the yellow peeking through like this. Okay, so this fits perfectly. I'm going to go ahead and attach this one. Sometimes these triangles, they can be hard to fit just right. So by doing it that way, just cut your square 1/4 of an inch smaller on each side and it should fit perfectly. Now, my cardstock or my paper has a design on it, a pattern. This other half would have to go like this. Okay, so that's not going to work very well with my design. If I didn't have a pattern, or if the pattern didn't matter which direction it faced, then it wouldn't be an issue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this piece and use it as a template and cut my other piece in the proper direction. It's going to be easier if I put it on this side. Okay. So I'm going to trim. Make sure it's well lined up and facing the proper direction from that corner to here. And this should fit. And it does, like that. Now I can attach my trim. Put a bit more tape on there. And this is going to be covered, and I can flip this over. Trim this straight down. Now I can attach the bottom piece, and again I'm not going to put any adhesive here because I want to be able to slide a little tag in there like I've got here. I've got this little tag that slides over on the side. You don't have to do it if you want. You can glue and forget the tag, but I like the look of that little tag on the side. So I'm going to put my adhesive just along the bottom. I think just to make it extra strong, I'll even put some over here. fold this over. And the crisscross part of the card is done. I'm going to put some of this eyelet here along this edge. I could also just trim some more of this border and put it there, or just leave it plain, but I'm going to put some eyelet, but I'm going to do that after. I'm not going to make you watch me heat up my glue gun and do that portion of it. I'll finish the embellishments after. But I will show you the tag. I pre-cut my tag and I punched little decorative corners. You don't have to do that, but I wanted to punch some corners. Now, because I'm going to mat this, I'm going to, I think I'll just ink the edges of my white cardstock. The reason I pick white is so that I could write a message down there if I want to. I think I'll just put a little picture or an image there. But you can mat however you wish. You can use a plain piece of cardstock and mat with the design paper. But I've decided to do the reverse. I'm using a colored cardstock with a design on it, and I'm going to mat with this plain white. Now the reason I'm doing this tag on video is I want to show you a trick for the corners. The way I would do these, and I demonstrate that in some of my mini album tutorials, is my matting would cover some of the corners where I have my punched border. I want to leave an opening, and I used to just take my circle punch and estimate and punch, but it wouldn't always come out just perfect. So what I started doing is I used my punch and I'm going to punch the design on my matting. The matting, again, is about 1/8 of an inch smaller than the size of my tag. And my tag in this case is 4.5 by 4.5 inches. So this is about 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. I'm going to punch the same design on the 4 corners of my tag. This is going to help take some of the guesswork out. Now that I've got my design punched in there, it makes it a lot easier to use my circle punch and put that in there, and I can see where the design is, and I can go ahead and punch it off, and it makes it a lot more accurate. So now this will fit more evenly on my tag. Now I'm going to pick something to put on that tag. Well, I'm going to use the same one as on my pink card. This is a baby boy stack by Die Cuts with a View, and the girl card was the baby girl stack. Again by Die Cuts with a View. I love their paper. The cardstock is really thick. It's good quality. around the corners. And that's going to go like that. And there's room for a little message underneath. Eyeball that. I'm going to put about ½ an inch from the top. There, like that. Now I'm going to take a piece of ribbon to attach to the top of the card. I take a piece that's about 3 inches long and I fold it in two, like that. And that's going to attach to my card, like to my tag, like that. So I'm just going to use my little X-Acto knife and grab one of these little brads here. Punch a little hole. And then I punch a small hole on my tag. You can use a crocodile if you want, but my brads are really tiny, like that. Okay, so there's my little tag. I'm going to put a flower on here, so it's going to cover the edge of my my ribbon. Like that. So that tag will slide in like that. And you could also mat the back or leave it blank like that if you want a journal on the back. But you can also mat the back and put photos there if you want. So there's my tag. And then here's my other little tag that I cut. It measures 1 1/4 by 3 inches high. And I matted that with this cute little giraffe pattern. And that's just going to slide on the side like that. So the easel, the crisscross portion of the card is done. The next part we're going to do in the next video, part 2, will be the slider that attaches to the back of the crisscross card. So I'll be right back and we'll be doing the slider.